Eric Smith has served 28 years for a 4-year-old Derek Roby in 1993.
In a quiet village nestled in the rolling hills of upstate New York, families went about their daily lives feeling safe and at peace. Children played freely outdoors while parents kept a watchful but relaxed eye. No one worried about locking their doors or looking over their shoulders, for this was the kind of place where nothing bad ever happened. But they will come to find out evil exists everywhere if given room to grow. Sometimes all it takes is a seed of anger, resentment, or insecurity to take root in the mind of someone unable to cope. When that seed sprouts and festers unchecked, it can transform an ordinary person into someone unrecognizable. The story centers around two young boys growing up worlds apart though living side by side. One radiated innocence and joy to all he encountered him. The other kept his pain bottled up inside until one day it exploded. In the end, one life was sadly cut short and another destined to be caged. This is the chilling story of Eric Smith and Derek Roby, bound forever by a senseless act of evil. Before we begin, comment where you're watching us from. Hi guys, and welcome back to Crimeco, where we break down some of the most worst true crime cases from all over the world, giving you the most up-to-date detailed information. If that sounds like something you are interested in, be sure to subscribe and don't forget to give this video a like. A like from you really helps the channel. Thank you. Now let's dive in. Savona, New York is a speck of a village within the rural town of Campbell, population just over 700. Farm country surrounds the one-stoplight town, sitting about 60 miles southeast of Rochester. With its quaint main street dotted by mom-and-pop shops, Savona fosters a quiet small-town feel. Neighbors know each other by name, local kids ride bikes freely around town, and crime is nearly non-existent. One might drive right through Savona without even noticing were it not for the gigantic green "I Love New York" sign and towering sculpture of lumberjack Paul Bunyan marking the village's southern end. Bunyan stands as a symbol of the region's rich logging history. Savona grew into an industrial boomtown at the turn of the 20th century thanks to its prime location along railway lines, used to transport timber from surrounding woodlands. The trains don't rumble through anymore, and the timber industry has faded, but Savona remains a peaceful place to live and raise a family. At least it was until the summer of '93. It began on an early August morning when energetic 4-year-old Derek Roby left his house on Fountain Street to walk a couple blocks to the park. There was Eric waiting and watching. Though young, Eric had long been an outcast in this community. Physically slight and awkward, the red-haired boy with big glasses did not fit in with by bigger kids who teased him or ignored him altogether. Inside, he harbored a simmering temper. Eric's full name was Eric M. Smith. He was born in January of 1980 in Savona to Susan and Ted Smith, an average working-class couple. Early indications suggested Eric might have developmental issues. He did not speak until age 3 and tended to throw severe temper tantrums well past toddlerhood. In school, Eric showed signs of low cognitive function. Testing revealed an IQ of just 80 and learning disabilities that required him to repeat first grade. Socially, he lagged far behind his peers. Eric exhibited poor hygiene, odd habits, and what was described as bizarre behavior.
He would say things like, "I'm stupid, I'm nobody, I'm never gonna be anybody," that kind of stuff.
He wore thick glasses to correct vision problems and hearing aids to help moderate auditory issues. Eric's parents sought professional help to address their son's needs. He underwent language therapy and began taking Ritalin to curb hyperactive and impulsive behavior. But the intervention came late and proved largely ineffective. Eric continued to struggle, particularly when interacting with other kids. His physical appearance made him an easy target to be picked on. They mocked his protruding low-set ears and freckled complexion. Eric was unusually short for his age, making him seem an easy prey for older boys who will mess with him. The treatment only worsened when Eric entered middle school. New, bigger kids sensed vulnerability and singled him out for aid. At home, Eric grew increasingly withdrawn. Rarely did he discuss trouble at school with his parents or stand up for himself. Instead, Eric internalized his pain and grew ever more resentful. Signs of a missing edge began to emerge. The boy who absorbed so much words started taking out his frustrations by doing the same to younger kids in the neighborhood. When Eric was 10, his parents noticed he was doing things to animals. At one point, he was caught cutting a cat. Ted and Susan Smith continued trying to get help for their troubled son, but were running out of options. No diagnosis fully captured the complexity of Eric's issues, and no treatment managed to curb his impulses now on the rise. Something in Eric was changing, drifting further from good. The boys who adored him at school saw him as weak, a loner loser, but Eric was gaining an appetite for vengeance, watching and waiting for the right vessel into which he could pour out his pain. On August 2, 1993, 13-year-old Eric Smith woke in an already angry mood. He was supposed to go to a recreation day camp that morning, but it had been called off, leaving him bored and frustrated. Eric hopped on his red bike and aimlessly pedaled around Savona, passing time. As he rode down Panwoods Avenue, Eric spotted a small figure approaching, 4-year-old Derek Roby, strolling happily along the sidewalk. Derek's mother, Doreen, had just seen her bubbly boy off, watching as he made his way toward the park's day camp. He never arrived. Eric studied the small child, sensing vulnerability. Derek's little Super Mario lunchbox and cheerful demeanor stood in glaring contrast to what the teenager was feeling. Something snapped and Eric swerved his bike to intercept the boy's path. Eric directed innocent Derek away from the open road, enticing the small child into the woods with false friendliness. In the secluded trees where none could see, the teenager channeled his intense anger, exerting a force upon Derek's small form, causing significant harm. Leaving the kid face down in leaves, Eric took Derek's lunchbox and fled the scene. He tossed the boy's prized Super Mario box in a creek, then rode home to hide his bee-stained shirt before his parents noticed anything.
He went into Derek's lunch bag and he smashed a banana and took Derek's Kool-Aid, and he actually poured that Kool-Aid into the wound.
Meanwhile, Doreen Roby arrived at the park, searching for Derek, panic setting in when he was nowhere to be found. Authorities launched a search for the missing child as news spread of a boy gone missing. 5 long hours later, a firefighter discovered what was left of Derek just over 100 yards from where his mom had last kissed him goodbye. Derek's badly injured self revealed a horrifying act. The extensive head marks and evidence on his neck left no doubt that it was a case of 8th word. The damage to Derek's lunchbox, along with the spilled Kool-Aid, provided further insight into a deliberate and cold-hearted perpetrator. Yet it seemed unfathomable that anyone from town could be capable of such wickedness. Many assumed the perpetrator must have been someone passing through. Parents kept their kids inside as police scoured the area in a crazy search for leads. 1 week into their inquiry, law enforcement officials interviewed a 13-year-old resident of the area, Eric Smith. Smith recounted seeing Derek on the sidewalk shortly before the unfortunate incident. Detectives found something worrying in the teenager's behavior. They requested Eric's return the following day to revisit his statement. It quickly became clear that from where Eric claimed he was riding his bike, there was no way he could have spotted Derek so vividly at that distance. Confronted over the discrepancy, Eric stuck to his story. Police remained skeptical, but did not yet have enough evidence to tie the peculiar teen to the crime. 8 days after Derek was ended, the truth finally emerged. As Eric ate dinner with his family, his grandmother implored him to share anything he might know about the Roby boy's fate. Overcome with guilt, Eric turned to his mother and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom, I ended that little boy." Eric admitted luring Derek off the road as he walked to camp that morning. He provided chilling details about everything he did. Eric described physically assaulting Derek and subjecting what was left of him to an act with an object to see what it felt like. He expressed no remorse, only fear about what might happen to him now. Police arrested Eric the next day and charged him with the crime. He was held in custody pending further court proceedings. However, because Eric was only 13, criminal proceedings unfolded somewhat differently than cases with adults. But there was no denying the severity of Eric's crime and the clear danger he posed. He would be tried as an adult. Eric Smith's arrest sent shockwaves through the region. National media swarmed the village as interest in the case exploded. The story of a 13-year-old defendant with thick glasses and a baby face confused and captivated the public. Eric himself seemed not to grasp the gravity of it all. He sat stone-faced through court proceedings as details of Derek's final moments were recounted. Eric showed no emotion, no remorse, almost apathy about his actions. Psychiatrists evaluated Eric extensively, but could find no standard diagnosis to explain his behavior.
People who have this disorder describe feeling as if they're about to explode. After the episodic rage, the child may appear to be, quote, normal.
Some speculated he demonstrated early markers of psychopathy, but Eric did not meet the criteria for insane or incompetent to stand trial. His horrible actions were calculated. His attempt to cover up evidence showed he understood right from wrong.
He put his head down and he brings his fist up and his fists were vibrating a little bit and he goes, "You think I don't you?" Myself and the other two investigators are just like, wow.
A year later, in August 1994, Eric's trial began in the Steuben County Courthouse. Television cameras captured the small boy enter court each day, eerily disconnected from the setting around him. Prosecuting and defense attorneys battled over Eric's competency and degree of culpability. In the end, the jury convicted Eric of second-degree M.
County Court is now in session. The Honorable Donald G. Purple Jr. presiding.
At sentencing, Eric apologized to the Robys, saying he wished he could switch places with Derek. But his flat tone and expression left many doubting his sincerity. The judge showed no such uncertainty, sentencing Eric to the maximum penalty, 9 years to life in prison. He would head first to juvenile detention, then adult facilities when he turned 21. Eric Smith's name made national headlines but faded in the years after his conviction. Yet the memory of sweet Derek Roby lived on in Savona. His senseless loss rippled through the village, forever changing the way parents viewed safety and security for their little ones.
He was about that tall. He lived 4 years and 10 months. And that person...
The tragedy also wrought slow, transformative justice. New parks were built in Derek's name, funded by donations in his honor, and laws were enacted to prevent juveniles from seeking parole as frequently, sparing families of those they hurt unnecessary anguish. Derek's parents never stopped advocating in his memory. 2 decades passed quietly as Eric Smith served his sentence, largely forgotten behind bars. Then, in October 2021, the parole board authorized his release, setting in motion a new flurry of media coverage and public outcry. But for the people of Savona, thoughts dwelled not on Eric, but on the joyous boy who never got to grow up, and how his vibrant spirit lived on. The fates of Eric Smith and Derek Roby traced trajectories no one could have predicted that summer of 1993. One lived on in shattered hopes, the other in fading memories, but both remained trapped in a sense, one in the confines of conscience, the other in the confines of concrete. Smith passed nearly 3 decades removed from society, denied parole 10 times before finally granted release. Outside, the world evolved. Serious crime rates fell, attitudes shifted. Many no longer viewed Smith as the horrible juvenile who shocked the nation. Some even saw glimmers of rehabilitation. But perspectives remained split over the man Smith had become. Supporters pointed to his clean prison record, steady employment behind bars, education. Critics recalled his detached demeanor, refusal to discuss details, and supersized apologies. Perhaps the truth rested somewhere in between. Yet for Derek's parents, nothing could erase the void left by their loss. Each parole hearing reopened the wound. They dreaded the day Smith might walk free while their little boy never would. Still, Doreen and Dale Roby found purpose in keeping Derek's spirit alive. A new ball field, playgrounds, even a parkway bore his name, so his memory would endure. The story of Eric and Derek embodied a difficult duality, recognizing a child's capacity for both innocence and pain. Believing one could shield the young from life's darker realities only swings the pendulum too far toward naivete. But equally dangerous is letting fear rob children's formative years of joyful freedom. Each child, like all people, contains multitudes. This case reminds us monsters often don't appear as we imagine. But even after loss steals hope, new hope can grow through those who cherish memories of the missing. For when remembrance fuels righteous action, the light left behind can never fully be extinguished. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with the latest true crime cases. We appreciate having you as part of our community as we explore the mysteries that continue to fascinate us all. Stay curious and remember, justice may stay hidden in the darkest corner. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.